Welcome back. In today's class, we will be learning about symbiotic algae. There are many symbiotic algae in the ecosystem, such as coral reefs, lichens, sea sponges, in symbiotic relationship with microalgae or macroalgae. So, we are going to learn the mechanism in which they are symbiotic association with lower organisms. In today's class, we will be learning especially about coral reefs. Coral reefs are generally an invertebrate marine organism, which is generally seen in the marine beds, believed to be corky, stony, or leathery in its texture, attached to the ocean beds or the rock platform of the ocean or in the sea. This coral reefs is believed to be in symbiotic association with single-celled algae called as zooxanthellae. These zooxanthellae are nothing but a single-celled algae. There is a symbiotic association or a mutualistic association seen between an invertebrate marine organism called as the coral with a single-celled algae called as zooxanthellae. In the marine ecosystem, these coral reefs behave as a platform or a habitat for the single-celled algae to reside on. As we all know, algae are believed to be photosynthetic in nature. They perform photosynthesis by utilizing the mineral nutrients and the shelter given by the coral, and in turn gives it the photosynthetic products or the photosynthetic end products to the coral reef as mineral nutrients. In the simple words, coral reefs behaves as a shelter, provides shelter and also metabolites required for photosynthesis, whereas in turn the single-celled algae, that is your zooxanthellae, utilize that photosynthetic requirements given by the coral reefs, perform photosynthesis and provides the end product to the coral reefs. Coral reefs provides shelter and mineral nutrients. Zooxanthellae performs photosynthesis. This sort of symbiotic association is seen between these, where the products such as carbon dioxide, nitrates, phosphates are given by coral reefs. In turn, as a photosynthetic product, certain sugars, amino acids, lipids are given to the coral reefs by the algae. The coral reefs are seen in rainforests of the seas, where in the marine they not generally are restricted with the symbiotic association with zooxanthellae, but also symbiotic association with dinoflagellates are also witnessed. This photosynthetic exchange or mutualism is assayed using the instrumental analysis called as fluorometer in the recent studies. This is the transfer section of the coral reefs, how the coral reefs are being, transfer section of the coral reefs are taken, and inside them we can see these zooxanthellae members residing. These zooxanthellae members reside within the coral reefs, performing photosynthesis within them by utilizing the mineral nutrients given by the corals, and in turn gives the photosynthetic pigments. As I mentioned, the texture of the coral or the habit of the coral makes it a suitable platform for the zooxanthellae to reside and perform photosynthesis. At times, there is a condition or a scenario that is put forth by the corals called as coral bleaching. This chloral bleaching is nothing but loss of the symbiotic algae in one particular area of the coral reefs, where it starts corroding or it starts deteriorating. That is called as bleaching, where that non-living part of the coral, where there is no photosynthetic activity happening and there are no mineral nutrients supplied, so that part of the coral starts deteriorating, just like a fruit getting spoiled slowly from one region. Ultimately, when this is continued, the entire coral starts deteriorating, or it gets deteriorated completely. That initial phase where there is patchy deterioration, that is called as coral bleaching. This is the coral bleaching. How we can see there is photosynthesis happening around, but in between there is no photosynthesis happening, which this is nothing but coral bleaching. This is the pictorial representation of how coral reefs and zooxanthellae can be in symbiotic association. This is the coral reefs, where inside them these minute dots are the zooxanthellae. The exchange between the coral reefs and the single-celled algae is depicted here. To speak about the reproduction of coral reefs, will not get too much in detail about it, but then how is it symbiotically dependent, or how they both are mutualistically dependent on each other, makes sense when we understand the reproduction part of it. Generally, as a byproduct of the reproduction of sexual reproduction of coral reefs, they produce eggs or ovums or spawns, where it will have zooxanthellae within them when the swans are produced. Even if it doesn't have it, it undergoes phagocytosis and procures some amount of zooxanthellae in it in the neonate phase itself. That dependent it is with each other, where zooxanthellae play a vital role in the reproduction itself. So to speak about the reproduction part of the coral reefs, it shows asexual reproduction, that is by simple budding or fragmentation, where a part of the coral reef habit starts forming a bulged structure and called as a bud, detaches from the parent cell and starts developing as a new individual. When this budding happens, there is enough amount of zooxanthellae that gets transported to the bud, so that when it becomes a new individual, it has enough of zooxanthellae members in it to provide it the nutrients. Fragmentation is nothing but accidental breakage or mechanical interference or physical deterioration of the coral reef, where it itself will have some amount of zooxanthellae in it. As we know, throughout the habit of the coral, zooxanthellae are distributed. So if there is a part of this gets cut, it has enough of zooxanthellae members with it, and it will develop into a new individual healthy with the symbiotic association with single-celled algae. So speak about the sexual reproduction of coral reefs. It is this we are mainly focusing to show the dependency between each other. The reproduction happens in a indirect transfer or horizontal transfer. It is also called as direct or indirect transfer respectively. In direct transfer or a vertical transfer, when the egg is produced by the coral reefs, when the spawns are produced by the coral reefs, when it does not have zooxanthellae members with it, these eggs perform phagocytosis, which means engulfing of some single-celled algae within it, even before it has been fertilized. Even if it is before becoming a new individual in the egg form itself, it will make sure that it has some zooxanthellae members in it, for which it adapts the mechanism called phagocytosis, engulfment of the zooxanthellae members from the environment. The next or another form of sexual reproduction is called as indirect or horizontal transfer. In indirect or horizontal transfer, the larvae or the eggs that are produced by the coral reefs, if it does not have zooxanthellae members, it can take up the zooxanthellae members from the seawater or from the surrounding environment by the process of horizontal transfer. There is a chemotatic movement that has been witnessed, especially by the zooxanthellae members, where the positive chemotaxis occurs, where the movement of this algae is in such a way that the movement is always seen from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. When the population is low, the movement automatically starts and balances in the environment. So that chemotatic movement is being depicted here, where there is transfer of the organisms from its higher concentration to the lower concentration, showing positive chemotaxis. There are mechanisms adopted or sexual reproduction adopted in such a way that this mutualistic relationship is maintained throughout, even at the neonate phase or even before the egg is being fertilized. The coral reefs makes sure that it contains or possesses some amount of zooxanthellae members within it. So that is a mechanism of the direct transfer or the horizontal transfer, where there is a positive chemotaxis shown by the zooxanthellae members to make sure there is enough population residing inside the coral reefs. So that is all we have for today's class, where we started from, we spoke about what exactly are coral reefs, what exactly are zooxanthellae members. This shows the habitat of it. This is how they reside, habit of the coral, where zooxanthellae members are seen inside them when we take the transfer section, how they reside and what exactly is coral bleaching. This is the pictorial depiction of what exactly is the symbiotic association between coral reefs and zooxanthellae members, and also adding a note on sexual reproduction, emphasizing more on their dependency. Even if it is sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction, it is in such a way that they do not move ahead, they do not change their forms without the presence of good amount of zooxanthellae members, which has been supported by the positive chemotaxis shown by the single celled algae. So that is all we have for today's class, and all the very best. Thank you.